Coming up on Nightside, a standoff leaves 5 people dead in North Phoenix. We'll have that next. Also on News 11, the suspect arrested for allegedly robbing a Little Caesars Pizza in Yuma last week faces charges tonight. Plus, a training operation in Yuma helps prepare Marines across the country for missions they may have to do overseas. And 30 aircrafts hit the skies tomorrow. Nightside starts right now.
Live from the KYMA studios, covering Yuma and the Imperial Valley, this is Nightside on KYMA News 11.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Molly Lange. Well, 5 people have been found dead inside a North Phoenix home after a standoff and shooting. Police and SWAT stormed the home after hearing muted gunshots about an hour after arriving on scene. SWAT had set up and used a megaphone to try to communicate with the barricaded subject. Police used a robot to search the house before sending in officers. Inside, police found the bodies of 3 men and 2 women. A woman who was able to leave the home told officers that it was a family dispute gone wrong. Well, 12 customers are still without power in the Somerton area tonight. APS officials say an equipment failure resulted in a down power line and an outage for almost 5,000 customers today. Firefighters were busy today battling at least 6 fires in the Somerton area near Main Street and Cesar Chavez. Captain Hernandez with the Somerton Fire Department said there were no injuries from the incident. However, they did have a car accident due to street lights not working. During the power outage, Main Street was blocked off for about 3 blocks while fire crews worked to put the blaze out.
We did have multiple fires. We had the brush fire, fence on fire, and 2 sheds on fire. Our understanding is that the electricity has been secured through APS, and now it's just a matter of them working to restore it back.
Well, officials say about 8 families were evacuated from their homes, and APS officials say they will offer a reimbursement for residential customers affected by the Somerton outage for the purchase of up to 40 pounds of wet bagged ice. You can send your original receipts to this address here, MS 8010 PO Box 53999 in Phoenix, Arizona, zip code 85072. You can see it there on your screen. The 12 remaining customers without service should expect power by 9 p.m. Hopefully you guys have that now. Well, a brush fire in a populated area of Southern California led to the evacuations of about 24 homes. At least 2 people were reported injured and 1 home burned. The fire began in a field near some homes in Jurupa Valley late this morning and reached some 8 acres. Smoke poured through the community as firefighters battled the blaze from the ground, air, and rooftops. The fire also knocked out power in the area. At last report, the fire was at least 50% contained. Well, the suspect arrested for allegedly robbing a Little Caesars Pizza location in Yuma last week faces charges tonight. Ernest Martinez stood before a judge in a Yuma justice courtroom. He has 3 pending felony charges, including armed robbery. The state says he has prior felony convictions for similar crimes in California. He is now being held on $250,000 bond.
The defendant admitted to committing this crime. He admitted to going in there, he admitted to be armed, and he admitted to be taking $180, or approximately $180 out of the cash register. The state is concerned about the safety of the community.
Well, Martinez will be appearing back in court on Monday. That's when the court says he will learn if prosecutors file formal charges. Well, more than 30 military aircraft will be taken to the skies tomorrow as part of a training operation in Yuma. Locals are now familiar with Marine Corps Air Station Yuma's Weapons and Tactics Instructor course. It helps prepare Marines across the country for missions they may have to do overseas. WTI runs tomorrow from 4 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. You can catch some of the action at Kiwanis Park. And Calexico Mayor John Moreno focusing on positive things happening in Calexico in his State of the City address. More jobs and more housing coming to Calexico. News 11's Milrose Bosco has the story.
Residents, because together we can make great things happen only in Calexico. Join us.
Calexico Mayor John Moreno began his State of the Union address in a more creative way with a video presentation with interviews from various departments. The fire department showed off some refurbished equipment.
We've got Truck 91 services the city of Calexico in our valley. It was redone back in Florida from the ground up. brand new fire truck.
Various projects are underway in Calexico, with parks being renovated to include recreational areas to the expansion of the Grand Plaza, creating 600 more jobs by next year.
We're here at the Grand Plaza Outlet Mall, which is due for another phase and yet another phase that will take us all the way to the American Canal and triple the size of what we see already here.
Roads have also been paved and more to come.
We're happy that Gold Road was resurfaced earlier this year in September. One of the many streets in Mexico that needed that resurfacing.
While Moreno focused on the positive, he knows there are matters that need to be taken care of.
And I'm a realist. I know that we've got things that need to happen. But we have things that are happening now.
In Calexico, Melrose Bosco.
Well, moving on to a more serious note, we've seen our fair share of police use of force videos these last few months, but nothing quite like this latest one, where a suspect was literally run down by a police cruiser. Now we're learning more about the Arizona police officer behind the wheel and his time as a police officer in New York. NBC's Miguel Amagar reports.
New details this morning about the officer behind the wheel in that shocking police dash cam video. Court documents obtained by NBC affiliate KVOA show Michael Rapico was the subject of a lawsuit while serving with the NYPD in 2005. According to the documents, a man claimed that Officer Rapico threatened to shoot him, then handcuffed and choked him. The defense team for Officer Rapico and the city of New York denied the allegations. The case settled in 2008 when the city of New York agreed to pay the man $20,000. Meanwhile, the debate this morning continues over this video and whether the use of this force was creative.
Using the vehicle, I think, was a very creative, outside of the box kind of thinking.
Or excessive.
Man down. This is another example of excessive police force that is completely unnecessary.
The suspect, Mario Valencia, was hospitalized but survived. Now Marana police officers are saying you can't understand the tape without knowing the backstory, that the crash stopped Valencia's crime spree, a holdup, a church fire, a home invasion, and police say a gun theft from Walmart. Moments before the impact, Valencia is seen firing the gun in the air and threatening suicide. Do you think police did the right thing?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because the man had a loaded rifle.
His police car was totaled, but Officer Rapico has been cleared of any charges.
Our officer did what they had to do, and we're okay with the outcome.
Well, understanding poverty in our community, that's the goal of the Southwest Arizona Futures Forum, and today an event at AWC did just that. News 11's Max Tarleton has the details.
Adults are coming together here at Arizona Western College to do some role playing, and by role playing I mean stepping in the shoes of those in poverty in our community.
Right now, more than 45 million United States citizens are in poverty, and today the who's who of Yuma, along with other community members, walked in their shoes.
We do have a pretty high unemployment rate, so the poverty rate is higher than it is in the state and the nation.
With play money and props, those shoes were filled by the very people who help those in poverty.
Today I'm learning that people are just very they're not being very smart with their money.
And though it's all a reenactment, it's not a game. Everything is based on statistics and situations that are real. All the bases are covered in these reenactments, from CPS taking your children away to being evicted or even going to jail.
With these reenactments comes the luck of the draw. These little cards that get passed out, some are good and some are bad. Like this one, I got a flat tire that now I have to take care of.
And in doing so, I have the opportunity to learn what resources are out there for me.
WACOG, Western Arizona Council of Governments. There's also a number of nonprofits, Crossroads Mission, the Yuma Community Food Bank.
It gives me some insight into what it is like to live in a low-income neighborhood, to be in a low-income family, and I think it would just give me a broader perspective on how I can help those individuals.
Reporting at Arizona Western College, I'm Max Tarleton.
Well, we've reported a lot of stories lately about Americans allegedly trying to make their way to Syria to join ISIS. But tonight, an Ohio man is accused of not only going there and receiving terrorist training, but also coming back to the States with plans to carry out an attack right here at home. NBC's Justice correspondent Pete Williams has details.
On behalf of the state, Ron O'Brien.
American officials say today's charges reflect a growing fear. People in the U.S. going to Syria, getting training, then coming back as committed terrorists. Prosecutors today accused a 23-year-old Somali-born man from Columbus, Ohio, Abdirahman Sheikh Mohammed, of buying a one-way ticket to Athens, Greece a year ago, getting off the plane in Istanbul, and making his way into Syria. For 2 months, they say, he got training in weapons, explosives, and hand-to-hand combat, following his brother, who had gone there in 2013 to join al-Qaeda in Syria and was killed in a battle last year. Court documents say when Mohammed returned to his family's house in Columbus, he talked to others, saying he wanted to target the military, police, or anyone in uniform, and wanted to, quote, kill 3 or 4 American soldiers execution style. His arrest is a first since ISIS began recruiting.
This is the first case of an American traveling to, overseas to Syria, training with terrorist groups there, and then returning home to be arrested and indicted.
He was arrested on state charges in February and had been under surveillance for months. Tracing Americans who've been to Syria is an urgent priority for the FBI, as Attorney General Eric Holder told us recently.
We probably have hundreds, under some kind of surveillance.
Authorities say tonight that Mohammed's pro-jihadi postings on Facebook helped attract the attention of investigators.
Well, it has been some beautiful, cool, and April weather. A little windy, though, and I'm wondering if that wind is going to stick around. Standing by in the Weather Center is Asal Razai, our newest employee. Welcome to the Desert Southwest. How you liking it?
I'm loving it. Thank you so much for the welcome, Molly. So excited to be a part of the news team here in Yuma. Asal Razai here with a quick look at what's going on outside right now. Looks like about 65, dew point down to 31 degrees, 28% humidity, with winds coming in from the west at about 5. We are actually going to be going to what's going on in El Centro right now. We're looking at 66, dew point a little bit lower at 20 degrees, 17% humidity, and winds coming in from the south at 3 miles per hour. Also in Blythe, 66, dew point same at 22, 19% of humidity. Winds coming in just about the same from the east at 5 miles per hour. And I would say our radar looking pretty clear right now. Little to no activity across the board coming in from the coast. Our bus stop forecast for the morning is looking pretty clear. I know this morning we had some winds lingering from yesterday. It was pretty breezy. Today was pretty smooth. I know poolside this morning was a little windy for me, but tomorrow we're looking bright and sunny at 71. Lunchtime around 84, and right when we're getting out of school at about 86. Now, what we have to expect tomorrow and later on this weekend is coming up in a bit. Molly?
Thanks so much. Looks like perfect weather. Well, a Canadian man showed that man can be dog's best friend recently. Boomer, his 9-year-old Bernese mountain dog, was sleeping on his front step when a cougar attacked him. CBS's Terry Trembath reports that Boomer's owner didn't think twice about what to do next.
A chance encounter with a cougar catching this Pritis homeowner off guard.
I was expecting it to be a coyote, but once I heard the yelping, it wasn't a question in my mind that he's getting attacked by something.
Cougars are predatory creatures. Although solitary animals, they are mostly active at dusk and dawn. People and pets are at risk. Boomer, a 9-year-old Bernese, was sleeping on the front step when he was attacked. Sherry says he didn't think, he just reacted.
The dog is on its back right there, and the cougar's on top of him, and just sit about right here on top of the cougar, and then just grabbed the cougar and threw it as far as I could.
But the cougar came back. It lunged at the dog, grabbing hold of Boomer's head. Sherry on the other end pulling the dog away, eye to eye with the cougar.
What went through my mind was if he jumps and leaps towards me, so I think maybe that's why I maybe did it first, to try to get rid of him or to attack him. I don't know why I did that. It's the craziest thing ever, but it worked out really well.
Nursing scrapes and bite marks, Boomer is lucky to be alive, and so is Sherry for that matter. He says it's a story he'll never forget. Terry Trembath, CBC News, Prentice.
Well, talking about that copter that flew undetected to the U.S. Capitol yesterday through some of the most restricted airspace in the country. We'll have that story coming up next. And 2 National Guard members are in trouble after illegally selling military-issued firearms. Stay with us. We'll have those stories and more coming up next.
Your favorite talk shows are on News Talk 560 KBLU. America's Morning News at 5 a.m., Rush at 9, Sean at noon, and Glenn at 3. News Talk 560 KBLU, where Yuma comes to talk.
From the KYMA studios, covering Yuma and the Imperial Valley, this is KYMA News 11.
Welcome back. Well, that bizarre aerial stunt in Washington, D.C. is still rattling nerves today with the question, what if, on a lot of minds. We're talking about that copter that flew undetected to the U.S. Capitol yesterday through some of the most restricted airspace in the country. And some of the answers we are getting aren't totally reassuring. NBC's national correspondent Peter Alexander is on the story.
First the stunt, now the scrutiny.
This is not good, people.
This unprecedented act of civil disobedience is today refocusing new attention on a long-standing security vulnerability, the threat posed by low-flying, lightweight aircraft. Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson.
This individual apparently literally flew in under the radar, literally.
Federal authorities today charged 61-year-old Florida mailman Doug Hughes with violating restricted airspace and operating an unregistered aircraft. The maximum penalty, 1 and 3 years each. A judge released Hughes and ordered him to stay out of Washington until a hearing next month. Hughes told the Tampa Bay Times last year he wanted to deliver a message to Washington to end big money in politics.
I'd rather die in the flight than live to be 80 years old and see this country fall.
Instead, his flight sparked a discussion about security.
How did it happen? How'd the helicopter get through? Why weren't there alarm bells that went off? Why wasn't it intercepted?
This was basically the gyrocopter's flight path as it rounded the Washington Monument, heading straight down the National Mall for the Capitol building. But had he taken a left turn, the pilot would have had a straight shot for the White House. The nation's capital is teeming with law enforcement, the Secret Service, Capitol Police, Park Police, but none stopped what Hughes once described as a flying bicycle.
Who should be in charge of that restricted airspace ultimately?
We've got a well-coordinated federal response to dealing with issues of those who penetrate the restricted airspace
Secret Service,
without permission.
Military, Capitol Police.
Who's a well-coordinated response?
The U.S. no longer flies fighter jets 24/7 over D.C. like after 9/11, but a senior military official tells NBC's Jim Miklaszewski even if jets were already in the air, they would have been ineffective against such a small, slow-flying target. After getting a heads up from Hughes, Tampa Bay Times reporter Ben Montgomery drove to Washington to watch. But the Secret Service says the paper never alerted authorities.
It's not my job to pull the plug on somebody who's doing something like this.
2 National Guard members have been charged for illegally selling military-issued firearms to someone they believed was part of a Mexican drug cartel. That person was, in fact, an undercover agent. Candace Nguyen has more on the men who are accused of selling rifles, pistols, and thousands of rounds of ammunition to someone they believed was going to take it all to Mexico.
They were busting down his door. They had canines ready.
A neighbor who did not want to show her face describes the sting operation on Christa Court in La Mesa that happened Wednesday. These are pictures from another neighbor.
There was about 10 to 15 members of ATF with automatic weapons pointed at my neighbor's door.
She says she had no idea the man who lived near her was Army Reservist Andrew Reyes. Reyes, along with a fellow local Army Reservist Jaime Casillas, are accused of illegally selling firearms to an undercover agent posing as a member of a Mexican drug cartel organization.
They pulled my neighbor out, put him in zip ties, arrested him.
According to this complaint, the illegally sold firearms included military-issued assault rifles, ammunition, and protective body armor. Investigators say the men told the undercover agent some of the guns had obliterated serial numbers and were hot, meaning they'd been used in a crime or were stolen. NBC7 tried reaching out to people who knew the defendants, but did not get a response. We visited the armory in El Cajon where Reyes and Casillas worked. An official there told us the National Guard is fully cooperating in this investigation. He had no further comment.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, also known as ATF, is conducting the investigation. Reyes and Casillas will be making their first appearance in federal court tomorrow. Well, this is Phelps' first competition since serving a 6-month ban from the sport, a suspension handed down by USA Swimming following his second drunken driving arrest. We'll have that story coming up next. And we'll let you know what to look forward to for this beautiful weekend. Is it going to be cooling down? Is it going to be heating up? Is that wind here to stay? Well, that's next. Stay with us on News 11, where news comes first. Well, coming up next after the break, this is Phelps' first competition since serving a 6-month ban from the sport, a suspension handed down by the USA Swimming, followed by his second drunken driving arrest. We'll have that story coming up right after the break. Well, welcome back. Well, Jamaican sprint gold medalist Usain Bolt visited the Olympic Center at Rio de Janeiro's most traditional favela and today ahead of the mano a mano 100-meter race in the city on the weekend. Bolt joked and ran and slam dunked basketballs alongside teenagers participating in sports activities at the sports complex, which functions as a social project in the low-income community. The sprinter dressed in the customary bright pink of the community's colors and its famous samba school known as to the locals as the Green and Pink. Bolt kicked off his campaign last week to win sprint honors at Beijing's World Championships, and later this year he said he would be willing to face American rival Justin Gatlin at any time. In Rio next year, he is looking to top up his 6 Olympic gold medals.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be my last one, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm really excited now. It's getting closer. The more closer I get, more excited I get. So I'm just happy to just be here every year just to compete, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Bolt missed most of last season with injuries, and his potential showdown with Gatlin in Beijing is expected to be a highlight of the World Championships in August. Well, Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, was in the pool this evening in Mesa, Arizona for the Arena Pro Swim Series. This is Phelps' first competition since serving a 6-month ban from the sport, a suspension handed down by USA Swimming following his second drunken driving arrest. Phelps competed in the 100-meter butterfly along with another well-decorated Olympian, Ryan Loach. Phelps put down a solid time of 52.38 to easily win the final, and he finished second with a time of 53.11, followed by Tom Shields in third with a time of 53.18. Well, NBA players, that is, will be tested for human growth hormone, or HGH, starting next season. According to the league, under an agreement between the league and the NBA Players Association, players will be subject to 3 random unannounced tests each year. 2 of the 3 tests will be done during the season and 1 will be in the off season. The players could also face reasonable cause testing, and a player who fails a test will be suspended for 20 games for the first offense, 45 games for a second failed test, and will be banned from the league for a third failed test. NBA commissioner told GQ magazine in November that HGH test was a high priority. Well, that's going to wrap up this segment of sports. We'll be right back after the break. Well, welcome back. Part of the endangered species list, 2 new baby clouded leopard cubs were born on Friday at a Belgium zoo. If you take a look here, look how adorable they are. I can't believe they're on their endangered list. Well, thank you so much for watching us. We'll see you tomorrow for sunrise.
So there are less than 10,000 of them.